Today, I'm going to be ranking every Manchester United goal of the season, starting from 2005 all the way to 2025. The way that I'll be ranking the goals is based off of three main factors. One, the technical quality of the goal. For example, if it's a lovely finesse shot, a power shot, or an acrobatic. Two, the context of the game. For example, if it's a last minute winner, or maybe it's an important goal to get the 3 points, stuff like that. And then number three, it's the legacy of the goal. Basically, how iconic it was, how memorable it was, and if it was recent, how memorable it can potentially be in the future. Okay, so I think it's only appropriate to start with last season's goal, which was Ahmad's goal against Manchester City. So to start off with, it's a fantastic ball from Leacher. Get well soon, my friend. And a beautiful touch from Ahmad. I don't know how he got his leg up there, but he finishes it off quite nicely past two Manchester City defenders. And yeah, what makes that goal so special, it was that it was a last minute winner against Manchester City at the Etihad. The only bad thing that I would say about the goal, which isn't necessarily the goal's fault, but it's the fact that Nunes and Guardiola don't get a touch to it somehow. So it could have been easily blocked by them, but luckily it wasn't for us. So yeah, I think I'm going to put that in the B tier to start off. It's a pretty decent goal. To be honest, compared to some of these others on this tier list, in terms of like how good the actual goal is itself, it's probably on the lower tier, but just because of how special it was a last minute goal, especially against a big team. So that's why I'm going to place it in the B tier. All right, next we have 23-24, and I think we all remember this goal. An iconic goal for Garnacho, which I completely despise now. He's Chelsea's problem now, so is what it is. Thanks for the lovely goal, thanks for the memories. But yeah, it is definitely one of the best overhead kicks I've probably seen in my lifetime. Everything's perfect about it except that low cross. That low cross was criminal. If it wasn't for Garnacho sticking his leg up like that, that cross would have been just another woeful low cross. So he made it look good, is what I'm trying to say. And in terms of technique, when it comes to overhead kicks, I'm thinking of Wayne Rooney, which we'll get to later. Gareth Bale, Cristiano Ronaldo is probably one of like the most cleanest strike, or cleanest struck I should say, overhead kicks. Only thing that lets it down is that he done the Ronaldo celebration. It would have been a bit more iconic if he'd done his own, but I do know that someone on Twitter, a United fan, DM'd him and said, can you do the Ronaldo celebration for your next goal? And that's the reason he done that. But with that being said, it's one of the best goals that we'll be reviewing today. I mean, it did win a Puskas award. For me, it's definitely an S tier. All right, up next, we got 2022/23 season, which was Anthony's half volley winner against Barcelona. Now, I can't lie, this goal sold our streams. I think it was Ten Hag's first season, if I remember correctly. We were doing so well in the league, I think. We somehow were playing Barcelona in Europe. It was at Old Trafford. We beat Barcelona 4-3. The technique on the goal was actually pretty good too. I mean, compared to how iconic or memorable it is, it's not as memorable as other goals in this tier list. I mean, after all, like 2 rounds later in the Europa League, we went out to Sevilla, I think. So in that case, I think the best place to put it is got to be on the B tier. All right, up next, we got 2021/22, which was Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, this goal is a long shot, and trust me, I love a long shot. Every time I'm on a 5-a-side or have some space, try to give it one of those. Never really score that much. But yeah, this was the first goal of 3 that he scored against Tottenham in this game. And it's a decent goal compared to other long shots in Ronaldo's catalogue. I mean, it's nowhere near the top. And he's also given quite a lot of space by the Tottenham players. So they could have maybe closed him down. I'm looking at you, Erik. But it's a good goal. And it was a highlight of a terrible season. So for that reason, I think I'm going to give it a B tier as well. All right, up next, we got 2020/21. And we got Bruno Fernandes's goal against Everton. And yeah, the way he does a little fake shot before he shoots, it's classic Bruno. He loves doing his fake shots. He loves doing his little body movements just to get around people. He's genuinely world class at that. And it's outside of the box, and it's like an in-swinger. You know, like when you do like an in-swinger cross, like it doesn't look like it's intended to go in, if that makes sense. You can maybe argue that Pickford could have done a little bit better.
Oh, for fuck's sake, sold that goal.
I don't know, that's up for debate. With that being said, I think I'm going to put it in the C tier just because it's looking a bit lonely at the moment. And it was a draw against Everton, a 3-3 draw. Of course, we didn't win the Premier League that season. So in terms of how iconic it is, it's not very memorable. So yeah, I think C is a perfect placement for it. All right, now we're talking 2019/2020 Marcus Rashford's free kick against Chelsea. Oh my God, what a great goal by Rashford. I mean, what more can you ask from a goal? It's a 40-yard like free kick. The knuckleball technique, obviously inspired by Ronaldo, but Rashford's obviously got his own stance, like Ronaldo does the... That's Ronaldo's technique, obviously, but Rashford's got his own, but he still hits them so sweetly. And when it goes in top left corner like that, keeper can't do anything. Absolute limbs in the away end. And of course, in terms of how iconic it is, maybe not as iconic as other goals in the tier list, as you'll see later, but I think in like 5 to 10 years, we're going to look back and we're going to be like, wow, that goal was just out of this world. So I think it has to go in the S tier as well. It's a great goal. What more can you say? All right, up next, we got 2018-19 Andres Pereira, the preseason Pirlo, as we like to call him. In terms of the goal, it has a lovely technique. He finessed that beautifully. Keeper was going nowhere near it. But at the end of the day, it's not that memorable. When I was doing the research for this tier list, I completely forgot about this goal, to be honest. So I think I'm going to give it a C tier. All right, up next, we got Nemanja Matic for 2017-2018. And this goal... It was a sweet goal. It was a goal to complete a comeback in the last minute, so that already puts it up quite a bit. And you got to remember, he was not much of a scorer at United. I think he scored 4 goals in total, and this, of course, was one of them, so that says it all. But overall, I think this is a great goal. Definitely not S-tier level, and definitely not Rashford level or Garnacho, but I think it belongs in the A-tier. It's got a fantastic technique on it, and I mean, yeah, I kind of love Nemanja Matic, especially after what he said about Onana. All right, up next, we got 2016/17 Henrik Mkhitaryan's scorpion kick. Oh, what a goal this was. I remember watching this, and I was so hyped. Honestly, it's one of the hardest techniques. It might even be harder than an overhead kick to just execute because you're putting your body forward. You don't know where the ball actually is. And yeah, it's a pretty hard goal to score, I'd say. This goal is very memorable for me. However, and this is a big however, because it's going to put it down a lot. If you actually slow it down there, you can see it's very much offside. So if we had VAR today, this goal would definitely not be standing. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in the D tier. You can argue with me in the comments, but just the fact that it's offside, looking back now, like technically it wouldn't have stood, and it kind of is a good point against VAR. All right, up next, we got 2015-16 Anthony Martial's debut goal at Old Trafford, in his debut appearance, by the way. And all I can say is, oh yes! Welcome to Manchester United, Anthony Martial. I've got that like memorized ever since then. In terms of where it ranks in the tier list, I mean, it's a lovely solo dribble. He goes from the left wing, cuts in inside, does a little classic Martial dribble. In terms of like negatives I'd have to say about this goal is that he sold us dreams. Martial, you sold us dreams, my friend. If you didn't have such a bad injury record and just weren't inconsistent in general, my God, what a player he would have been. But with that being said, I'm going to put this goal in the A tier. It's not as good as Garnacho's or Rashford's, but just in terms of the moment, it was of course against Liverpool at Old Trafford, so that gives it bonus points. There we go, A tier. 2014-15 season, Juan Field. If you don't know where the Juan Field came from, this is the goal. This beautiful, I guess you would call it scissor kick. It's more of a scissor kick, right? It's not really an overhead kick. It was of course against Liverpool at Anfield. Sorry, Juan Field. The technique on it, lovely. To be fair, you could say the keeper should be doing a bit better there maybe. It wasn't exactly bottom left corner, and it did have like a little bounce before it went in. Anyways, just because of how iconic it is, it's like a cult classic, so I'm gonna put it in the A tier. All right, up next, we got Wayne Rooney's half volley from the halfway line against West Ham. What can you say about this goal except for David Beckham-esque? And the funny thing is that he was in attendance during this game, so I guess it makes it that much more special. But in terms of the tier list, I think I'm going to have to give it an A, because pretty much every Man United fan remembers this goal because of the David Beckham-esque-ness to it. Only caveat I'd say that is not as good as the others is that it's only possible because of the goalkeeper's positioning. Then again, it's up to Wayne Rooney to make the call to shoot from there. And he did. He had the intelligence and he shot, and it was a beautiful goal. So, okay, 2012/2013, the last time we won the Premier League. We got to fix that. Anyway, this one's an iconic goal. The second goal in Van Persie's hat-trick, which actually sealed the Premier League that day. Just for that alone, it's going to already put it up on the very S/A tier. But if that wasn't enough, it's just a beautiful pass from Wayne Rooney. Van Persie catches it beautifully. Boom. Keeper can't do much about that. It's just a beautiful goal. I know this might be controversial, but because of how important the goal was, I think I'm going to put it at the top of my S tier, just above Garnacho's. Argue in the comments, I think that's a good placement for it, just because of how iconic it was. All right, up next, we got 2011/2012 season with Antonio Valencia's power shot against Blackburn. Now, I don't have much to say about this goal. It was a typical Valencia power shot. I do think the keeper and the defender could have done better. Like, it's a very tight angle, but it wasn't like, there wasn't much bend on it, if that makes sense. And I think that the goalkeeper's positioning was a bit in question here. With that being said, I think it belongs in the C tier. Not the best, but not the worst. Still a great goal. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. I've been teasing it this whole bloody video. Thinking of Wayne Rooney, which we'll get to later. It just gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I will say though, the technique, not as good as Garnacho's. In terms of aesthetics, Garnacho's one was like a 10 out of 10 overhead kick in my opinion. However, this one is pretty close to being like a 10. It's like a 9/9.5 probably. Hits him like on the calf, which I think makes it less aesthetically pleasing in my opinion. But in terms of opponent, it trumps Garnacho's goal. The celebration definitely trumps Garnacho's goal. The iconic... You know, that was beautiful. I gotta say, it was a good cross from Nani, unlike the low. There's that as well. Great assist. And yeah, the fact that it is against Man City, I think makes it that bit better. Honestly, I don't know where in the S tier it belongs. This one's up for debate on like the placement. But you know what? I'm just gonna put it first because it's probably one of the most iconic goals ever at Old Trafford. Again, sue me in the comments. Don't sue me, please. I'm broke. All right, up next, we got 2009-2010. And this is Wayne Rooney again. And well, it's more of a counter attack, I'd say. There's only 3 passes between where the goal starts, which is in the Man United box, to the other side where we score from, which is a first time finish from Rooney, and it's a beautiful finish. However, with that being said, I don't think it's as memorable as other ones on this list. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put it in the D tier and just below Mkhitaryan's goal, because compared to the others in this list, I think it's the worst goal. And by worst, I mean worst goal. It's not exactly a bad goal. I take those goals any day nowadays, you know? The 2008-2009 season, Cristiano Ronaldo's rocket against Porto. Now, when I think of long shots, I think of this goal because I think it's in like every compilation of Ronaldo ever. Maybe even every long shot compilation on YouTube. It's one of those goals that just makes you go, how did he score from that far? What was he thinking to shoot from that far? But thank God he did, because we got this beauty of a goal. And that's probably something that's missing from football nowadays, the maverickness in players, just to, you know, have a pop instead of passing it around the back. We need to see more long shot goals like this. Just have a crack, boys. Okay, even if you sky it into the car park, just have a crack. This was, of course, in Ronaldo's last season for Man United, so kind of a goodbye present. And of course, it was in the Champions League, which gives it extra points because the other goals have all been in the Premier League. And of course, we got to the Champions League final that season, but we won't talk about that. I'm thinking I'm going to put it S tier just behind Garnacho's goal. It's a beautiful strike, beautiful technique, beautiful everything, but Garnacho's goal was just a bit more special in my opinion. Staying on Ronaldo again, another player that's been on here more than twice. So him and Rooney are the only ones that have done that. But this free kick goal against Portsmouth, like I said previously with the long shot, when you think of free kick goals, absolutely knuckleable, powerful free kick goals, you think of this one. This one was unsavable just because of the pace, the power. It was at Old Trafford. Everything was beautiful about this goal. And of course, if it wasn't for this goal, Rashford probably wouldn't even have tried a knuckleball in his life. So I think it belongs in the S tier between him and Rashford's. I do think Rashford's was just slightly bit better. I don't know actually, but it definitely belongs in the S tier. I don't know exactly where, but it's definitely an S tier goal. All right, up next we have the penultimate goal of the list, and none other than Paul Scholes against Aston Villa. That beautiful volley he scored. He hits it so perfectly. It comes off the bar, for Christ's sake. It's a perfect volley, honestly. And it's hard to say that because I'm going to place it below Van Persie's, because obviously Van Persie's had more significance in the season, but this is a perfect volley in my opinion. And last but not least, we have Cristiano Ronaldo's goal, and this was the first goal to start off the goal of the season. Before this, they didn't do it. And to be honest, I think it belongs in the D tier. The positives about this goal is that it's a left footer. Obviously, Ronaldo is pretty much two-footed, but compared to every other goal on this list, I don't know, something about it doesn't stick out to me. It's too central. The keeper could have done better. It's up for debate where in the D tier list is placed, but with that being said, it's still a great goal. This is a goal of the season, right? But yeah, there's my tier list. Let me know in the comments where you'd place things. And I think like every goal means something to someone, you know, like you were at a certain place with your friends watching the game, or I don't know, maybe it was just a good memory for you. Maybe you were at Old Trafford when Rooney scored that goal. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you want to see more tier lists, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to check this one out here. It won't disappoint, I think.